So maybe I gotta ask you, is Cap still training? How is he?
All day, every day, baby. All day, every day.
I love that. So
Nothing's changed.
Is he still wanting to play?
Can I get a photo?
Of course he is. It's all up to the teams if they'll let him.
Today is Wednesday, which means tomorrow is Thursday. And that may not mean anything to any of you, but it means a whole lot to me. Why? Because obviously, as you can tell with my football jersey on, I'm getting prepared for the NFL draft, where various amounts of college prospects hope to hear their name called with the opportunity of fulfilling their dream of becoming an NFL football player, where they could win awards, potentially Super Bowls, and provide for their families and hopefully not get a bunch of concussions that will lead to disastrous futures 30 and 40 years from now. But you know what's so fascinating about the NFL draft and the upcoming NFL season is that once again, we gotta have a conversation about Colin Kaeprnick. Why? Because apparently he's still living that dream of one day an NFL team being so desperate to call his phone and say, hey, we really are down on our luck. And you know what would help? You, a guy who hasn't played in the NFL in years. You could help us in this exact moment. And I'm here to let you know. And anyone who could potentially pretend to care about Colin Kaeprnick at this point, no. It ain't gonna happen. There's too much time that has gone by to where Colin Kaeprnick, let's be real, is damaged goods. And I feel like we go through this every single year since he was honestly blackballed out of the NFL, because it was kind of scummy how they got him for just sitting there and silently protesting and not making it as big of a deal as people tried to make it out to be. But it's the fact that ever since, Colin has had the opportunity to potentially come back into the NFL, and he turned it into a PR stunt.
Let me start by saying I appreciate y'all coming out. That means a lot to me. Our biggest thing with everything today was making sure we had transparency of what went on. We weren't getting that elsewhere, so we came out here. It's important that y'all are here. Y'all been attacked for the last 3 years. Y'all continue to be attacked. We appreciate what y'all do. We appreciate you being here today. We appreciate the work you do for the people and telling the truth. That's what we want in everything. I've been ready for 3 years. I've been denied for 3 years. We all know why I came out here, showed it today in front of everybody. We have nothing to hide. So we're waiting for the 32 owners, the 32 teams, Roger Goodell, all of them to stop running. Stop running from the truth. Stop running from the people. We're out here, we're ready to play. We're ready to go anywhere. My agent, Jeff Nally, is ready to talk to any team. I'll interview with any team at any time. I've been ready, I'm staying ready, and I'll continue to be ready. And to all the people that came out here today to support, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. To the people that aren't here, I'm thinking of you. I appreciate you supporting from where you are. We'll continue to give you updates as we hear. We'll be waiting to hear from Roger Goodell, the NFL, the 32 teams. We'll let you know if we hear from them. Ball's in their court.
So Colin Kaepernick stated that he still would like to return to the NFL and that he is still training and pushing, and he's just got to get at least one of these NFL owners to open up at a certain time. And I can honestly say this. Do I believe that he was blackballed from the league? Yes, I do. Do I believe the protests had a lot to do with that? Yes, I do. Do I believe that the lawsuit against the NFL had a lot to do with that as well? Yes, I do. And do I believe that that botched showcase in Atlanta, where he moved to work out to a high school, has a lot to do with a lot of NFL owners not taking him serious? Yes, I do. Now, was there a lot of controversy around that workout? Yes, it was. But I believe that they're holding that against him as well. But I also believe this. He hasn't played organized football in almost 8 years. And I don't think any NFL owners, regardless of how much you're training, you could be training with the Navy SEAL, they're not going to put you back on that field, especially considering with how Deshaun Watson was his first few years coming back after almost 2 years of layoff. So I don't think that teams are anxious to bring a guy who hasn't played in 8 years back, even as a backup capacity. I also believe this. Had he been playing in a league like the USFL or the UFL or even the XFL before it merged, or even the Canadian Football League, and showed him that he can light it up in either one of those leagues, and he stayed close to the game, and he played organized football during that time, I believe a lot of NFL owners will really look at that and say, we're willing to give you a chance, come on back, since you've been playing organized football and lighting it up in other leagues, we could potentially look at you as a backup. And if something was to happen where you're put into that starting position, we could entrust you to at least win a few games. I don't think a lot of these NFL owners or GMs or even scouts is looking at that right now as a possibility, considering that he hasn't played organized football in almost 8 years in any league. And I believe this. I don't want you to come back and make a mockery of yourself. I don't want you to come back after 8 years and they throw you out on the field. Your time is off. Your conditioning is not there as far as football wise, and your ability has eroded, and you're essentially put out there as a tackling dummy at a certain point in order to try to prove a point to the rest of the league. I don't want to see that happen either. So I think this ship has sailed at a certain point, and it's time to put it to rest, because after 8 long years of not playing any type of organized football, I don't think that the timing is there, and I think a lot of his reflexes and ability has eroded at a certain point. As we all know, you can train all you want, but until you are in that fire and you are taking the lumps, you are not really in football shape. And an 8-year layoff will definitely erode a lot of your ability and a lot of your timing and your reflexes. But let me know what you think in the comments. So less than 24 hours after being in the news for stating that he would possibly like to play in the National Football League once again, Colin Kaepernick is again in the news because apparently earlier this year, Jim Harbaugh extended the offer to Colin Kaepernick in order to join the Los Angeles Chargers for a place on the coaching staff. So apparently earlier this year, Jim Harbaugh reached out to Colin Kaepernick in early January about possibly joining the coaching staff and reconnecting with the same coach that he helped lead the 49ers to a Super Bowl with, so he could be in the NFL in a coach's capacity. He's still awaiting an answer at this point in time, but there has been no further movement as far as the hiring or the approval of this process. And I could also say it'll be very, very interesting, to say the least, to see him as a coach, depending on what capacity that he's in, especially if he ends up being a quarterback coach, considering how talented Justin Herbert is. Hey, if you want to take it back into the NFL, you might not can play anymore at this point in time, considering that it's been 8 years, but consider the following. Those who can. Those who don't, teach. And I think that him teaching a younger quarterback and the younger generation will be a hell of an opportunity for him to get back into the NFL. But like I said, this was earlier in the year. He has not yet gotten back to Jim Harbaugh at this time. But I think it will be interesting to see him back in the NFL in a coaching capacity.
Oh, and by the way, because there's going to be somebody that's going to sit there and try to make a case for Colin Kaepernick, and why shouldn't an NFL team want to hire him? Well, there's 2 reasons. The most important one is that the draft, as I said, is tomorrow. You know what that means? A bunch of NFL teams are considering drafting quarterbacks. And I would just like to say, as the #1 Saints hater of all time, I hope y'all don't draft Shedeur Sanders, because he's going to be shit dealing with that goddamn team, because y'all suck and y'all don't have an O-line. Yes, I'm that damn petty. But you have these teams who either have quarterbacks that they drafted last season that they're hoping to potentially get out there and develop in the regular season and the preseason, and you got teams with already established quarterbacks, and you have teams who are hoping to draft quarterbacks that are coming out of this draft, and some washed up has-been thinking he still got the skill set to usurp all of that is embarrassing. Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, all of these individuals who are vying for positions on an NFL team, you want them to be overlooked so that you could have one guy who's fixated on his one dream being fulfilled, even though he had one, maybe 2 good seasons, and then spent his time as a 3rd string for a good portion of the rest. Then he put his knee on the pavement and said, I care about a bunch of people. So when we have these conversations about Colin Kaepernick, let's timeline these correct, because he was already bench warming before he put his knee on the ground. But the most funny of the 2 options is that Colin, for those of you who don't have the memory, compared the combine and the draft process for some fucking reason to slave auctions.
Before they put you on the field, teams poke, prod, and examine you, searching for any defect that might affect your performance. No boundary respected. No dignity left intact.
Because yes, still, it don't make sense, and I really wish he would explain that, how he, along with everybody who came before him, during him, and after him just willingly for all these years, ever since they were a kid, trained and worked hard to be football players in park ball and then middle school and then high school and then college, and they bust their ass to get to the NFL and be successful or be mediocre. How do you explain all of these different people? Because it wasn't just black people that signed up to be football players. There are white people who signed up to be football players. And apparently those are the only two races that fucking exist in this world, because I don't recognize anybody else in the NFL, because it's difficult to sit here and stomach a guy or his spokesperson or his wife or his friends or his mothers sitting there saying he still wants to live this dream when nobody wants him. Go to the CFL, go to the XFL, go play arena football, go do something if you're really dedicated to this craft, because the NFL has passed you by. And part of it is the NFL's fault, but part of it is your fault. Because if you actually went and did that workout the way they hoped you would, maybe people would look at you and look at their sad teams at the time and say, yeah, we kind of do need a quarterback right now. The Dolphins definitely needed a quarterback at different portions of time, because Tua Tagovailoa is definitely somebody who I would hope really stays away from the football field for the rest of his life. The Buccaneers could have used one. Fuck, the Broncos could have used one at a certain point in time. But no, you made it a PR stunt. You made it this big spectacle, and now you're labeled, as much as you probably don't want to admit it, as a brand risk, who is not really someone teams could trust and put forth. Maybe at one point, let me amend that actually. At one point, you might have been considered a brand risk. Now, no one cares, because there are more quarterbacks to pick out of the draft and in trades and in free agency than worrying about you. So to Colin and to anybody who's going to pretend like they're a fan of Colin and you're ignoring his fall off because you just want to be combative for some fucking reason, I wish you well. I wish you absolute glory in life. I hope one day some team is just desperate enough and they can't get a quarterback, and everybody on their team, from the starter to the water boy, is injured, and they say fuck it, call Colin, and hopefully you sign the contract, and hopefully you prove to somebody that you can still do it. Because if you potentially get on a team and you shit the bed, boy, you are never going to be able to live that shit down. But that's the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Who are you hoping your team drafts? I'm hoping that my team, trades up just a little bit just so that we could get Ashton Jeanty, because while my team has finally, seemingly, at the moment, gotten us a quarterback, because I do believe in Bo Nix, that running back position is still a little bit sketchy. So I hope we get Ashton Jeanty. But in the meantime, I will see you all in the next one. Mwah! Goodbye.